to you. We're also seeing a record number of Brazilian companies going public in the US. Of course, not on the same scale as in Brazil, but still we're seeing a rise in Brazilian companies looking to do their IPOs in NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange in the US. So why do you think this is happening? And is there anything common among these companies?
Well, it is interesting. I mean, Vitor talks about 2007. I think he was still in primary school back then. You know, I was already here at Nasdaq, and 2007 was kind of our high water mark for IPOs too. And then obviously we went into the financial crisis, but we did 252 IPOs that year, and then last year we did 316, and we've done 580 so far this year. So and the U.S. markets have done over 800 IPOs just through here the almost the end of August. So 2/3 of the year, and we've already done 800 IPOs. So it has been an amazing run, and you're right about the fact that we are seeing more Brazilian companies come to the U.S. markets. But you know, back to my earlier answer, I think one of the interesting points is, okay, there are 4 Brazilian companies that have come public so far this year. There's a few more that are in the pipeline to potentially come between now and the end of the year. There have been 7 SPAC listings of companies from Brazil or their sponsors in Brazil that have come to the U.S. markets. So we are seeing an uptick, but again, you know, 4 versus 40. And last year it was 2, and the year before that it was 2, and 2 versus 28. So it's still a small number of companies versus the number of companies that are listing domestically. And we are seeing them come from a few sectors. Obviously, NASDAQ's heritage is technology. We have the 5 largest companies in the world listed on our market, the only companies that are over $2 trillion worth of market cap. Apple was over $2.5 trillion just yesterday. And so we find more and more companies that are coming to market from technology. Healthcare is our largest sector today. So we've had a biotech boom that we're in the 7th year, and we certainly see a number of impressive healthcare companies that are coming out of Brazil. Fintech, companies that have come to market already from Brazil have been in the fintech area, and edtech. You know, we have Arco as one of the early adopters of NASDAQ. Arco, Afya, Vitru, Vasta, more of in the education technology sector that have come to us, as well as consumer companies that we expect will come to market in the future. So those are a few of the sectors that have either come to market or are looking at the markets, Jenny, and we think those are probably the ones that will consistently be thinking about the U.S. as a destination for a Brazilian company.
Perfect, thank you. And then Victor, do you see any trends in terms of what type of companies or industries that are going public in Brazil in the same way like Bob is seeing in the US?
Yeah, we do. Actually, we believe the local market still have space for pretty much any industry or any space, right? Our exchange was really concentrated on, still is really concentrated on commodities, on financial institutions. But what we do see, and we like to use as an example all the time, is like the agro sector, right? The agribusiness sector, because it's extremely relevant for economy. And when you look, you almost have no company, right? I think just a few. And now we are bringing the agribusiness sector to the stock exchange. Still a long way to go. Really, very good companies that can and will access the market. We also like to use the example of technology, of healthcare. You believe the size of these sectors in the economy and the importance for the real economy. And when you look, when investors, individual or investment funds or whatever, want to invest in B3 or in the local market, you don't have any options. So we still believe that this just a few sectors here, like say agribusiness, technology, healthcare, among many others, still has a lot of space to go.
Recently, the SEC, the US version of the Brazilian CVM, they approved a diversity rule that was proposed by NASDAQ. So listed companies now in the US must have on their boards at least one woman and one minority. So I'd like to ask Bob, can you comment a little bit on that, give a little bit context to our audience? And also, do you think there's more to do about that? I guess racial issues, it's a big issue in whether that's in the US, in Brazil, is everywhere around the world.
So yes, we're very excited that the SEC finally approved our rule, which really puts forth a standard for companies as they come to the market. And we're not too dissimilar from the things that others, including investment banks like Goldman Sachs in January 2020, when David Solomon announced that they wouldn't take a company public if it didn't have at least one woman on the board. And we felt like it was our responsibility to move diversity and inclusion forward with this rule. And then the rule just says that we want companies to have a diverse board. You're going to have plenty of time to bring your board up to that standard that we've set. So the first woman that is necessary to have on the board is within the next 2 years, and then the underrepresented minority is within 2 years after that. So there's plenty of time for companies. We're not asking them to do it by the end of 2021. It's plenty of time for them to work through the cycles and to make sure that they can find the right person who also is part of either of these groups to be part of their board. Most of our companies already had, a supermajority of our companies already had at least one woman on the board, and many of them had two women on the board. And we just believe that this is the right way for us to move the conversation forward in terms of being diverse, inclusive at the board level, which filters down through the company. And there's also statistical evidence that companies that are more diverse actually perform better in the markets. And so we were delighted that obviously that we finally were able to get the rule approved. And one thing I will also say is that it is a disclose or explain rule. So all the companies are required to disclose, but if they are not able to meet the standard, all they have to do is explain why they cannot meet the standard, and therefore and there's no delisting ramifications to that. All it is a disclose or explain. So we really think was the right thing to do. We're obviously, as I said, very pleased that the SEC saw it that same way. And I will finish by saying this is not the beginning of NASDAQ trying to continue to legislate how companies govern themselves, run their companies, run their boards. We felt like this was an area that was important for us to weigh in on and for us to take a leadership role on. And therefore this is what we decided to do. Should not be taken as a precursor for other rule filings, rule sets that we put forth in the future that will weigh in more heavily on this or other areas. We just thought that this governance area was something that we needed to really speak out on and to lead on.
Perfect. I think that's an amazing initiative. When you look at markets and companies a few years back and what they're trying to do today, it's a huge progress, but there's still a lot to do.